Hello, class. This is just going to be a brief video talking about the article presentation example that I posted on Canvas and article presentation requirements. If you are unaware, I did post an example of an article presentation. If you go to Canvas and click on your course navigation, which can be found on your left-hand side, you'll find a module that says group work information. At the very bottom, you'll see something that says article presentation example. So this is simply an example that I gave on a random article that I chose in order to emulate what exactly I'm looking for. Okay, we're going to simply go through it. It's going to be pretty quick. Okay, sorry guys. I don't think I had it wrong. There we go. Okay, so if you're looking for specific instructions, I would go to page 7 of your syllabus, but really your article presentation should be somewhere between 20 to 25 minutes. Please, I'd rather your article presentation be longer than shorter. The idea here is I want each group member to be knowledgeable about the article presented and the information that they are presenting. Although you may be, I don't know, maybe you're tasked with finding an organization on your topic and not so much about the reading of the article. I may ask a question, and if you don't know that question, well, you should also be well versed in the article as well, right? Because this is a group presentation. And although you may delegate certain aspects of that presentation to the group, it's important to understand that each group member should be knowledgeable about this article, right? So once again, this article, participation management and job satisfaction, has nothing to do with the articles given. I just a random one that I picked that was different from everyone else's. I want to ensure that I'm not trying to play favorites, right? It kind of felt like this one met everything or was similar to everyone's, if that makes sense, right? So here you see I have a main page, participatory management, job satisfaction. I have the author and the presenter. Of course, because you'll probably have more group members than me, it's just me. Yours will have everybody's name. So one of the first requirements for the article presentation is to give key premises and main concepts in your article. As I mentioned, one of the best examples, one of the best advice I can give you is that you should take this from the perspective that you guys are teaching the class about this article, okay? So therefore, it's important that you understand the main concepts and that you're able to relay those main concepts to the class. So as I mentioned, this article is discussing participatory management. It's discussing the importance of it. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to simply go through it really simply. I'm not going to present so much. As I mentioned, this is just an example, right? But participatory management is pretty much in the name. It is when all members of an organization are working together to make decisions. Why is this important? Because it can lead to things like members becoming more committed to their organization. There's higher job satisfaction. They're going to feel more valued. They're going to feel that they're adding more value to their organization. So therefore, they're more likely to not only be committed and engaged, but they're more likely to also sacrifice for the sake of the organization. So meaning, for instance, let's say that you need some members of your organization to work longer, maybe like, work a little later after work, or maybe come in a little earlier, or maybe come in on their day off. They're probably more inclined to do so if they feel that they are both their suggestions and their concerns are being taken into consideration. And that's really the gist of participatory management, right? This is when you're listening to other people's concerns, you're taking their suggestions, their advice, etc., into consideration when making decisions. So here we've seen the first slide. I'm giving an introduction to exactly what the article is discussing. Now I'm going into a little bit more, right? This is just pretty much saying that when participative management was actually being conducted in organizations, they found that people were very open to it, right? Participants, tended to result that participations were happier with the results that were given. Things like, for instance, their self-worth, motivation, and commitment were beginning to increase. Why? Because of the fact that people, as I mentioned, when they feel that they're being included in decision making, they're more likely to feel social significance of this, right? And in addition, aspects like accountability also improved. A lot of the times we may not appreciate or enjoy a procedure or policy that has been adopted by the organization, right? So therefore, maybe we don't follow it to a T like we're supposed to. But if you allow everyone to decide, they're more inclined to accept those decisions because now they feel that it's equal. It's been based on the group's decision, if that makes sense, right? So like I said, this is just simply me going through it, taking segments that I thought were essential to the overall understanding and strength of the argument, right? Because the argument of this article is that participative management is not only helpful, but it also improves morale and therefore strengthens the organizational culture, right? In addition, there's a whole portion that discusses the difference between participation versus groups and teams, right? I'm not going to go through it, but the idea here is that I thought this is a relevant topic, so this is the reason why I include it. Guys, your key premises, it doesn't just have to be one slide. It can be 2, 3, 4. It is entirely up to you. Whatever you feel is important in that article, include it. It's better to include it than not include it, right? So this article is somewhat similar to why do college students cheat? There's a research study that's included in it. I often find that sometimes groups will just read like the first 2 paragraphs or they'll read the first page and then they make their summary based off of that, which is not good, right? Especially why college students cheat, because you'll find that they include a lot of academic research in the beginning and then they actually use their statistical research study. So therefore, a lot of times, especially if you, it becomes very obvious that when students are simply talking about the academic and not the actual research study, they either one, didn't read the article clearly, or 2, they didn't understand the article clearly. So this is the importance of reading it thoroughly, right? Ensuring that everyone understands it. This is the reason why I encourage everyone to talk about it together, right? Collaboratively, because there may be something that you missed that somebody else will catch. And this is the reason, this is the very essence of what collaboration is, right? But here you see in the research study that I've broken it into 5 main components. 1, what is the purpose of the study, right? I don't need you to give me a whole, a whole half a page on it. Just give me a simple, a simple sentence telling me what the purpose of the study is. What are the primary understandings? The hypothesis. Here in this research study, we'll find that there's 2 hypotheses that are given. Give me the research method, meaning how was this research conducted? So give me the gist of it, right? So here we'll find that there was a survey that was conducted over 4,000 employees, right? The response rates range from somewhere to 30 to 80%. It's important for you to mention these because this affects the overall data, right? And lastly, major findings. In this research study, they found that both hypotheses, 1 and 2, were supported, right? So why is this important? This is important because this adds to the overall value of this paper. In the second portion of your presentation, it says explain why that topic is important to the understanding of leadership. Why is it important? Right. So in other words, this is your group opinion. Why is this important to leadership? How can this article be used to help improve leadership? So for me, for this article, because it's discussing participative management, I discussed that as organizations and the complexity of jobs become more and more complex, as the pace is becoming more complex, right? As we're expected to do more with less, and we're gently moving away from bureaucratic society, right? It's important to understand that now no longer is a division between, superior and subordinate really needed, right? What's needed now more than ever is collaboration, right? We've come to the understanding that being collaborative can be more effective than saying, I told you to do this, so you do this, right? Of course, I mean, it's important for us to have ranks and use them when needed, but you should try to incur a more collaborative nature. In addition, it's also important to realize that we need to be more inclusive than exclusive, right? By being inclusive and listening to other people's concerns, we can learn and see on aspects that we may have missed. The third portion of the article presentation asks for you to include relevant research findings of your topic. So in other words, find me relevant information that can help to your overall understanding of that topic given. So for instance, let me give you an example. Hold on. Actually, I should have done this first. Hold on, give me one quick second so I can find it for you guys. So that way, in case anybody has any questions about this, it's there. So I'm not sure, I'm sure everybody knows this, but if you go to, sorry, hold on. If you guys go to Coyote's website, you'll find on the right-hand side, there is a little tab that says library, right? It is a very effective thing because with that, you can find really any peer review article. Actually, we have a very extensive library that's very useful to this. So let me screen share so that way I can show you this. Okay, so here we see that I have included participative management, right? So once again, if you just go to CSUSB, you'll find that on the right-hand side, there's a little tab that says library. When you click on it, write, include whatever topic it is you're looking for. It gives you books, media, articles, but I chose articles because once again, we're just looking for any up-to-date articles that may be useful, right? You can also look online. You can use Google Scholar. It's up to you, but it's important for you to use relevant peer-reviewed articles, right? Because please don't give me something from Wikipedia or from some blog or something like that, because once again, that is not, that's not a valid source of data, right? So here you see, there's a lot of different ones that you can take. The idea here is for you to find some type of research to support the overall argument given in the overall argument given in the article. So, sorry. So here for relevance, the article I chose discussed that only 50% of employees worldwide and 34% in the US are engaged, right? Research shows that employees who play an active role in the workplace practices, they feel more engaged, right? This can help to improve things like retention, productivity, decision-making, et cetera, right? So this is a relevant article that I found that discussed the importance of participative management and how it can lead to effective overall performance in an organization, which is optimal for any organization. The fourth portion of your article asks for organizational implications of your topic. In other words, why should you care? So for this is where you would be using at least 2 to 3 theories that we've discussed in class. So really, what have we discussed? We've discussed chapter 1 and 2, and we're gonna be discussing chapter 3, right? So here you'll see that I've used some factors that I felt were useful. So for instance, self-efficacy. What is this? It's defined as a person's belief in his or her capability. How is this essential to participative management? Participative management can help improve your overall self-efficacy. Why is that? Because by collaborating with others and therefore sharing your opinions, your thoughts, you're more inclined to feel better about yourself, right? You're more inclined to have feel that you're adding more value to the organization, therefore improving your overall self-look and self-esteem. Locus of control is another one that I used. Participative leadership is another one. There's also something called effective leadership, right? This is when someone is high on the critical thinking and involvement. If you are involving yourself in organizational decisions, if you're involving yourself in the decision-making process, you're more likely to improve your effective followership. Because the idea here with participative management is that by being more inclusive and collaborating with others and discussing concerns, suggestions, advice, etc., you're really improving their overall self-efficacy. You're improving their overall effectiveness and therefore creating more effective members and future leaders, right? So here you see that I've taken certain theories, but once again, you're more than welcome to look at the theories that we've discussed in class, or you can look up some other theories that you feel are relevant. So for instance, you may want to look at the index of our textbook. If you look on there, you'll see that a lot of theories are already mentioned. So for instance, let's say that you're doing an article and you feel that networking would be an important component. Then you would go to the contents, look at the page number, maybe find something that you feel are effective for your article given. If you have any questions in regards to this, or you feel like you guys are at a stump and you don't know what it is that you want to include, you're more than welcome to contact me and we can discuss it, okay? The fifth portion of the article presentation asks that you include aspects, that you compare aspects of your article to an actual organization, right? So the organization that I chose to discuss was Google. So here you see, I give a little bit of information of what is Google. When was it founded? What is its overall mission? Why is it important to include the mission? Because the mission is really the gist and summary of their organizational objectives, right? It's the guideline of how Google should be conducting itself. I also included a small statistic. More than 70% of worldwide online search requests are handled by Google. So that has to tell you that Google is doing something right, right? In addition, because I feel that organization, Google is somebody that uses participative management, right? Once again, there are certain, because I did not go into big depth about what is participative management, it's important to note that there are certain segments of participative management. So for instance, you could use participative management when making decisions in regards to certain policies or departments, and you can use it for solely one certain aspect, if that makes sense, right? But the idea here is that the more that you include your staff, the more likely they are to be happy. When we talk about organizational value, I felt it was important for me to include just a little bit of Google's organizational value, right? This is just intended to show how well Google is doing. So that way you can see that participative management can be effective, right? So here we see this is their revenue. This is from 2020. I did not update it. I should have, but I didn't. So this is just an example to show, okay? Then we see Google's leadership structure. How is Google using participative management? So here are some examples. They have a flat organizational structure, meaning that they encourage all employees to share their voice, right? They're very supportive. They're supportive to creative environments. So for instance, if you feel better, and you feel you get more work done outside, they're very open to that. They have an open door policy. The idea here is that it encourages open communication, feedback, and discussion. Innovation is a priority, right? They are about coming up with the next best thing, and they do this through listening to their people, right? So this is why it's important. Participative management is such an important component. And lastly, autonomy. Google encourages employees to take initiative for workspaces, right? They give them the autonomy to decide these things. Why is autonomy effective? It's effective because when you delegate autonomy to people, they feel more valued. They feel like they are in charge of their life. So therefore, it's more of a positive thing, right? So this is an example of how I have included Google and related to the article, if that makes sense, right? Through these things. Of course, I would go more into depth, but once again, I'm just glazing over it, just trying to explain and compare it. I do realize that, for instance, Google has gone through some scrutiny in regards to aspects like, equality, gender equality, et cetera, et cetera. This is just simply talking about participative management. So once again, whatever organization you choose, the idea here is for you to analyze that organization from the article given. So for instance, if you're doing why do college students cheat? You may want to find an organization where you found that the organization has cheated employees or, customers, etc. Right? Or let's say, what other articles are there? Let's say that you're doing women and the labyrinth of leadership. Maybe you want to take it from a positive perspective, right? Women in the labyrinth of leadership really discusses, the inequality for women. So maybe talking about Google and their gender inequality would be a good example of that. Or if you want to take it in a more positive light, you can talk about people who are trying to promote change and promote gender equality and pick an organization in regards to that. Let me see, moral person, moral manager, that's discussing ethics and the importance of being ethical, right? So you could talk about something, for instance, like Chick-fil-A, right? Chick-fil-A is supposedly is a very ethical place. Some people are very happy with Chick-fil-A. They offer really good services to their employees. But once again, the owners of Chick-fil-A, they are not, they actually support anti-LGBTQ promotives, right? They're very big about promoting anti-gay camps and etc. So once again, although they offer quality food and they may be good to employees, what message are they sending out, right, to their staff and to their customers through something like this, right? Because once again, this is not, you want to be inclusive, not exclusive. So that's just an example you could use, or there's so many other ones, right? When we talk about destructive leaders with the toxic triangle, you can talk about Enron, you can talk about Wells Fargo. Give me an example of somebody that has been unethical. How does that lead to unethical behavior amongst its staff, right? If you're doing the susceptible circle, this talks about followers, right? A perfect example for the susceptible circle would be Enron, right? Because Enron, you'll find, was systemic. A lot of people knew and what Enron was doing. They knew that they were creating these dummy shells. And people were engaging in this unethical behavior because their leaders were engaging in it, right? So that's another example. So these are just examples. And once again, guys, it's up to you. Be as creative as you want. Whatever organization that you decide to use, you need to include a little bit of information about it. Tell me how it was created. Tell me, what time it was created. What do they do, etc. Because maybe the idea here is you want to be as transparent as possible, because some people may not know that organization. So therefore you want to keep them in the loop by giving a brief summary of them, right? And then once again, the reason why I include organizational values, because I want to show how well Google is doing with participative management. This is actually one of the most unique qualities of Google, right? And this is actually what I feel has been one of the most helpful aspects, right? So this is just another example of that. And lastly, references, guys. Make sure that you include your references. Please don't give me some copy and paste website. That's not a reference, right? As you can see here, they're in APA format. Make sure that it's that, right? I don't feel like that's asking really a lot. And that is it, guys. That is it for this presentation. Once again, the article suggestions you'll see for the article presentation on page 7 of your syllabus. You'll find that not only do I include what I'm expecting, but also I give you the criteria for the grading, right? So you'll see that I break up each thing that I'm expecting and how many points are dedicated to that certain portion. One last thing I would like to mention is the member contribution. There is 5 points dedicated to each member filling out a peer review confidential evaluation. This is just to ensure that everyone is doing their part. If you go to Canvas and click on modules, you will see you'll see the module that says group work information, and there will be something that says confidential peer evaluation. Simply download it, guys, fill it out, and email it to me on the day that you present. Okay, I'm not going to remind people about it. If you do not send it, let's say that you have 4 group members and only 3 of you send it, well, then guess what? You don't get all the 5 points, right? Because once again, this is to ensure that everyone is doing their part and that everyone has a voice. So therefore, it's kind of like that saying, closed mouths do not get fed. So it's important that you share with me your view of your group collaboration, so that way I can ensure that everybody gets full points, okay? So once again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me. If you guys are a little skeptical about which theories you want to use, or maybe you just want a sounding board, by all means, you guys are more than welcome to contact me, okay? All right, goodbye, guys.